Hello everybody, we have a new game in our speedrun against Rock Handle. We have the white pieces against a 1000 rated opponent. We open up with e4, he responds with e5. We play the bishop's opening. We develop a piece and hit the center and aim at the king at the same time. Black decides to do the same, bishop c5, hitting the center and our king. We're just going to develop a minor piece towards the center. It makes a lot of sense. Black decides to go d6, attack the center, solidify his pawn chain, open up his other bishop. We're going to do the same. We're going to play d3, solidify our center, and open up our dark square bishop. So very similar, the only difference is the knight right now. If he does develop the knight, he's copying us, and I will break that symmetry. No, I won't. Anyway, he doesn't do it. He goes knight f6 to developing move towards the center, prepares castling, can't be bad. You could just maybe pin, maybe develop the knight, but maybe we could also go f4. Let's play that. We love to play f4. It's risky, but it's ambitious. And so we go for the throat and see what happens. Doesn't always work out, but it's fun. And it attacks the center. And it gives more scope to your pieces that are behind the f-pawn. Once the f-pawn gets traded, maybe it moves. But now he's thinking, he's not sure what this move is. And he says, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do the fried liver, like in reverse from black. And look at this. He's going to win stuff. Scary. So what we're going to do is we're going to let him do this. Now you can calculate this on the spot, but ideally you would want to know it beforehand. We're going to play f5, and this is going to cut off the coordination between the pieces, meaning the knight would then be hanging. So at that point, he's forced to go for it. So let's do that. So now his bishop is cut off. The knight's hanging. So he basically is going to go for this, right? Every single one of you would go for that. Let's be honest. Leave a comment. Let me know if this is the move you would play. Come on. I mean, how can you not? It's a free fork. Don't you just win the game? Right? Boom. Hits the queen. Hits the rook. We're going to respond with queen h5. If he takes our rook, we checkmate him. So we're responding with a stronger counter threat. Now, it's not forced checkmate. He can block, he can castle, and he's not mated. And our rook is still trapped. So what's going on here, right? But there's more that meets the eye. This queen is staring directly at his king. His king is missing the knight, which normally defends the king, right? But instead it's on some hunt to win a rook that aren't really affecting the game at the moment. Right now, what's important are these pieces, not the rooks. So if you pay close attention, this bishop is pinning this pawn, right? So we actually can develop for free with a threat bishop g5. Again, he cannot take the rook because we're coming with a stronger counter threat. The queen's hit. He cannot play f6, which he otherwise would love to, because it's pinned. So now funny things are starting to happen around his king, and it's kind of awkward for him. He has to move to one of these weird squares, blocking his own bishop or rook, let's say, and And is that worth an exchange? I would say it's worth an exchange, and that's if you don't have anything further. But we might even have further trouble to pose to black, right? So let's see. Let's assume his queen goes somewhere. What can we do anything to his king? There's definitely something there, but my brain's not working. Okay, so he does move to the side. X-rays the queen, but it's still pinned, so you can never push that. I mean, this does undefend this. So now you have stuff like this hitting this. But the real threat isn't this. This is more like a sneak attack. The real threat is this. Check, hitting the queen. And if he takes it and you take it, he can't move his king because the diagonal's cut. And how does he stop checkmate next turn? Moving this stuff doesn't matter. So, okay, so that's an option. I also now want to look at the other candidate moves, these two. Let's say f6. If he were to just ignore me, you have to calculate that for sure. Are we actually threatening anything? You could take this pawn, but he doesn't even have to recapture. Maybe he could sack the rook, but let's say he recaptures. That's going to end in checkmate. If we put the bishop here and he takes immediately, we actually don't have anything. So if we put the pawn here and he takes it and we take it, he can't really stop mate. If we put the pawn here and he pushes and we go queen h6, he also can't stop mate. Okay, so one more time. Because if this wins now, it's even one turn faster than knight d5. Because you have to go knight d5 then knight f6. But if f6 creates unstoppable mating threats, you know, knight d5 he may have alternate responses because I didn't actually go through it all. So again, f6, he takes my rook. What's the threat? Do I have anything other than f takes g? No, it looks like f takes g. And if he evacuates his knight, let's just say, and I take the rook with check, queening, and he takes back with the queen, and I hit the queen and the queen goes somewhere, let's say to the dark squares, he's covering both of these. But then I can hit the queen again. If he goes back, what am I doing? Oh no, this rook's not there in that line, so I have bishop f7 check, so I don't have to go back. And that's check, he goes here. I mean, that looks good. f6 looks good. What else can he possibly do on f6? h6 for giggles. Let's say we take the pawn. If he takes the bishop, he gets mated. We take if he here. If he takes the pawn, he still gets mated. So I'm gonna play f6. Oh, I just now see this, but after queen h4, does that change anything? I'm still gonna take, and after takes, checkmate. I don't think it changes anything. And knight back. He hasn't actually taken anything. He's not up material. So like even knight back h3, you can kick it. Where's it going? If he takes, takes. Yeah, we don't want to allow that actually. So knight back, take this pawn again. It's hitting the rook. He has to respond. He either loses the rook or gets checkmated, I guess. Okay, so he does hit the queen. But I feel like this only entangles him further because the bishop defends the knight defends the bishop. So if I move this bishop, I could take the knight. If I move the knight, I could take the bishop. You know what I mean? So it's kind of not the most solid construction when pieces defend pieces like this. But it works for me because I'm worried about checkmate. Again, knight d5 in that position, probably good. What did he do? G takes F. He took my pawn. But that opens it up voluntarily. So I'll already forgot what I calculated, but I assume you just take the pawn, saying he can't move. And if I go queen g5 next, that's checkmate. So if I take this pawn, how does he stop queen g5? There's a couple ways. You could push the pawn, but that just hangs the pawn. So bishop back. So takes bishop back. I guess you could just kick his stuff and check him from here. So let's just take the pawn. Like I said, this is all too precarious. Something's gonna collapse. One of these pieces are checkmate. And my king is actually safe. Funnily enough, with these pieces around it, without his queen around it, it's safe. And his king is the one that's actually has 0 squares and no pieces that can go here. You know, like a bishop, if it could reroute here, that still wouldn't help him on the dark squares, but at least it covers the g file. That's something. But he doesn't have anything, so any check is a checkmate, right? Like even if I get a knight to h6, that's a checkmate. So basically the whole point of what I did was I lured black into going for knight g4 fried liver stuff. And then I played f5, and that lures them into going for this because it looks winning. But at the end of the day, white is actually winning. Now you would love to have lots of time to really, you know, calculate the exact winning sequence or whatever, but we could just go more or less off of feel, intuition. It's not going to be perfect, like the most perfect moves, most accurate, but I think that we made accurate enough moves that black is just lost. So he does go for this, which covers the checkmating square. But all of these are checkmating squares if I can reach them. So all I have to do is try to get to one. So let's try to get to one. Also, this is always the thing. It hits the bishop, it targets this, it targets this. But we're going to try to win without that ace in the hole. So anyway, we want that checkmate. So what was I thinking? If we kick the bishop and he just goes, I don't know, here, and we gain access to this square, that looks kind of good. This doesn't actually threaten anything, so we have time to go h3. If he takes the rook, we just take the bishop with the queen, and we checkmate him that way. And so you can see that the minor pieces are what's important in the middle game, not the rooks. The rooks are almost useless in the opening and middle game. So he develops a knight casually. Nothing's happening, which is insane. I guess he's trying to rush this as a thing. That's my hypothesis. But the problem with this is that when we take the bishop, not that we win the piece, but that opens up the rook for a checkmate. So we're going to take that. Now he kind of has to take the rook because we're going to checkmate him if he doesn't. Now when he takes the rook, can we checkmate him? This bishop is the annoying piece. We could again smoke it out like this, which creates alternative mega threats. If we block it off this way, we then lose. I guess if we block it off, we can just go queen h6. But if he takes the rook and we push and he sacks the bishop, that's mate. He takes the rook, we push. Is there anything he can do? Let's say he rushes the knight back. And I still go queen h6. And then he sacks. And then I go check. And then he puts the knight here. I go back to h6. And he still can't cover the g7 square. So I know this is a lot of calculation. I'm not expecting lower rated people to do this. I'm just expecting them to have some type of idea or plan that they follow. It's not going to be this, it's going to be something different, but you can see what I'm doing because I'm able to do it. So again, I'm going to hold off on knight d5 and go for the immediate checkmate with g5. I'm not taking the knight. I'm doing this to cut off the bishop's control over the dark squares, which is clearly what I'm trying to use to mate him. So now I have a dark square bishop, a queen on dark squares, and a pawn on dark squares. That's 3 attacking units on dark. And black lost his g7 pawn, which weakens the dark squares. He does go for this last resort thing, but I'm going to go with queen h6, threatening mate. He has to go for the sack, I calculated. Otherwise, oh no, he could go knight f5, but then I take the knight, but it does delay it for a turn. So he could delay it for one turn this way, and if he sacks, he can delay it for another turn. So I guess going for the sack is better, technically, but they're both losing. So this was definitely like a mate in 7 position at some point, many moves ago. And he's just kind of walking down the line. And this has to do with king safety. I'm utilizing, you see I have a pawn in the center, which stops his pawn in the center. So now that the center is kind of locked, we now have the freedom to play on the other sides, because unless you just sacrifice your pawn, you can only do so much with the center once you are controlling it so many times. You know, your pieces are out, you then have to do something else. So we use the locked center, our piece development, and this pawn. This guy goes for this line though. I was gonna say to attack his king safety, but we just take the knight, right? And this pawn is actually super strong. It doesn't have any relevance right now because he's getting mated on the dark squares, but what am I missing here? He gives me a spite check. Doesn't matter where I go. Here gives another check. And then this. Oh, that's sneaky. That's sneaky. Check, giving up the bishop, but then taking this to hit the queen and stop the mating square. He would have sacked 2 pieces, but he would have stopped. Like, that's really tricky for a 900 to... What the heck was that? He might have just been blundering pieces also, but that was an interesting idea. Wow. And now this is unstoppable. And look at this construction around his king. But he got the rook, right? That's what he wanted, the rook. I don't know why he's moving his knight back. That clearly is not going to save him. Boom. I am curious. First, I'm going to look at it with a human eye real quick. So center, development, development, center, center, bishop's opening. And this, basically you have to already know this, that this isn't dangerous. You may not know the exact line, like I had to think about lots of stuff, but I know that this can't be that good because he's moving the pieces twice. This F pawn isn't just cutting off his bishop, it's an attacking unit in and of itself. It's like a piece, just a little piece, but it's still gonna break through as if it was a knight or a bishop, right? So it's just as good as a minor piece almost once it gets to like this far. Okay, so he goes for this. We develop with threats. We develop with threats. And now we're just threatening mate, and it's move 9, right? Um, so it's super ambitious. When you're threatening to checkmate black on move 9, that's... and he falls for it. That's why I play the bishop's opening, because it allows for super aggressive stuff like this. Okay, so now I want to show you from an engine's perspective. Around here, we play f5. It's still even, but it's tricky. As soon as he jumps into here, which is the most natural move, he's immediately worse, assuming white plays correctly. So I know it's important to know like how much you know of chess and certain openings and lines, and I know that this is bad for black. You may not know that, so that will determine you'll make different decisions. I know queen h5 is the move. I know he has different responses, such as g6 or castling, for example. He chooses the castling option, and the engine says it's already +4. +4. Completely losing. Completely losing. It's on move 7. Black developed the bishop, developed the knight, put pawns in the center, castled his king. The only thing he did extra was waste 2 moves with his knight. That looks like it's winning a rook, and he's completely crushed. That's kind of crazy, considering he didn't make any, super dumb moves, that are completely useless, right? But he took the king's defender and went on a rook hunt, and his king is feeling lonely. And this pawn is an attacker. Without this pawn, white has nothing. With this pawn, white has everything. So these pieces cannot come to the other side of the board. So it's as if they're not there. And these pieces are essentially by my king, so they're not protecting his king. So all he has is the rook and the queen, potentially, and these 3 pawns. We're going to have this bishop, this queen, this bishop, and this pawn guaranteed. So at least 4 attacking units to try to break down his structure. Maybe we'll have the knight, depending on how the game goes. We'll see. So I go here, and the engine saying the best move for black is to sack the queen and just take the bishop. That's how bad it is. That's how strong this attack is, because this pawn is pinned, so you never get to play f6, and so it creates tons of problems. So he doesn't do that, because who wants to just give up their queen? And okay, it's saying knight d5, which was the first move that I looked at. I mean, it was the first move I mentioned on camera, I think, but in my head, the first move I saw was f6. But anyway, f6 is playable, completely winning. Knight d5 is playable, completely winning. Simply developing your other knight, knight f3, completely winning. It seems knight f3 is interesting. Like, to me, f6 and knight d5 create threats. They're like free moves with threats, so you definitely want to play those. And they're fast. I chose f6 because it seems even a little faster than the knight into the center, but it's crazy that you can play a move like knight f3, casually developing, giving black a free tempo, because this doesn't threaten anything, but it does join the attack in the next move, which is crazy. So anyway, I like to play f6. I think it makes the most practical sense. I don't know why. I was looking at so many different responses, but only afterwards that I go, oh yeah, bishop g4, but I know this is bad for black, so knowing ahead of time that it's bad helps you get through the positions because you're like, okay, bishop g4, but it can't be good. This I know this is bad for black, so I can find the move right on the spot. And so I find the move on the spot. There's only one because your queen's trapped. Queen h4. Still plus 3.2, crushing position. And yeah, they don't even have a suggestion that makes sense, the engine. So there's really nothing for black to do. What did he do? Yeah, he just took, but this hastens. I mean, he has no choice. I don't know. What if he just like passes the turn? I'm just gonna take, and yeah. So that's why he takes. So he takes because what else to do? That's funny. They're saying you can even play knight d5 here because after he takes, you give check. He goes in. You come in here, hit the queen, and you're gonna threaten mate. But just take the pawn. And then he found the only move to prevent mate immediately. Again, knight d5 is playable. Developing these knights are playable. What did I do? Oh yeah, h3 because it was gaining access to the checkmate square, so this is playable. So there were many winning moves. Matter of taste and which one you have the most confidence in. And here again, knight d5 is always devastating because of the reasons I mentioned. It's just a mega threat. But I go for checkmate threats because why the heck would I go for central control when there's a checkmate right here? Mate and fours across the board. He takes the rook. Take the knight, kind of lame. Okay, so it was... Whoa, this is a mistake? Oh my god. Oh my god. I missed that completely. Funny part is, even though I'm down a queen, I have crazy activity in minor pieces and I'm not worse. That's so funny. Because his king's stuck. Oh my god. And I have so many minor pieces for that. Wow, I totally blundered that. What is it? Yeah. A minute 7 on my clock. I blunder my queen. Ouch. Okay, in light of not losing your queen, it makes way more sense to take the knight. Because he can't stop what you're doing, right? Like none of these moves do anything. So after you take the knight, he still can't stop you from checkmating right after that. Jeez. Wow, and he just obliged. I was so focused on this. So he totally misses my queen hanging, and then I checkmate him. It's force mate in 3. Whoa. We're going to pretend like that never happened. But other than that, amazing game. But you see, that's what it is. That's chess. You can play 99% accuracy, but if you hang your queen, it's not going to end well. Where's the they usually where the heck is the percentage thing? Computer analysis. Here it is. How could I have 100% accuracy and 0 blunders when... Oh, is it not done? Oh, it's not done. That makes more sense. Okay, now it says I have 1 blunder, but still 100% accuracy. Wait, now this doesn't make any sense. Either way, it was a perfect game other than the Botez Gambit. Can't be doing that. Not good. But you see, your opponents don't even take advantage of it. So don't do it in your games. We'll do it in right here, right now. Get it out of your system. Okay, we'll keep on climbing. We're going to the next game. We'll see you there.